Hello everyone, Pallytime here. Welcome back to Overwatch. In today's video, I'm showing you the very last game I played prior to the beta shutting down. I was really sad. I haven't played a ton of Overwatch on this channel. It's mostly been on the squadron destinations, but when the beta finally closed, when I was disconnected back to the login screen, I felt the same way that I did when the series finale of Friends aired. It was that same empty feeling. I was like, well, what do I do now? Even though Overwatch was not the main focus of the content on this channel or anything like that, even though I didn't play hundreds of hours a week, it was still a weird sensation to know that I couldn't play it again for 2 weeks. And I think that's an important note to start on. I do have some criticisms for the game. I'm going to talk about what I think about it, whether or not I'm going to cover content in the future, whether or not I think it's worth buying, and I'm going to try to do that in as small of a window as possible. I may go over the time frame that I have here, so you may see some of this footage twice because it's the only footage I have. But I'll try to be short, concise, and to the point. So, Overwatch, what does it do right? Well, first of all, it's the most fun I've had in a shooter in a very long time. For those of you that don't know, I used to be a competitive Halo 3 player, semi-pro, never made it to the big leagues, but I did invest a ton of time into understanding the ins and outs of that game, and really gravitated towards it, and it was the only game I played for years. After that, I did get into Counter-Strike Source a little bit, but it never really stuck. I did play a lot of Team Fortress 2, and a lot of people are drawing a lot of verticals between Overwatch and Team Fortress 2, saying they look the same, saying they play the same, and quite frankly, they may have some visual similarities, but they play drastically different. And one of the main ways for one of the main discrepancies between the two titles is the fact that I'm playing Tracer in the video right now. A Tracer will always play exactly the same. So Tracer always has the same abilities. She always uses the same gun. She always has the same main play style, which is to zip to the back line, kill the squishies, kill the healers, and then leave, hopefully without dying. Now, the Scout, for instance, which has a pretty similar role in Team Fortress 2, you know, arguably, he can change his primary weapon, his secondary weapon, his melee weapon, and that can drastically change how the Scout is played. It adds a lot of variety to the character, adds a lot of variety to each match, and from a content creator's point of view, because keep in mind, this is my full-time job, I make videos here. I don't really stream that much on my own anyway. I do stream for Squadron, but from a content creator's point of view, there's a finite number of things that I can actually teach you about Tracer. She plays this way, and this way. She's good at this, and this, and that's pretty much what Tracer does. I can show you different examples from video to video basis. One of the best things about Heroes of the Storm, which if you don't know, if this is your first time seeing my content, is the main game that I focus on here. One of the best things about Heroes of the Storm is every 3 weeks, there's a balance change to something. There's a new character being added, and it adds so much to actually talk about because it can change the whole balance of the game. And as we have over 50 fucking characters in Heroes of the Storm that can play differently every game based on the amount of talents, or based on the combination of talents that they've slotted in a particular match, it's a lot of variety, which is one of the things I think Heroes does fantastic. From a content creator's point of view, I know that's not everyone's point of view, and I know I like drifted off on this little side thought, but it's important to me. Like, that's something I think about a lot whenever I approach a new game. That being said, there is a lot of counterplay. So, for instance, if I'm playing Tracer, they could switch out to a Zenyatta, and then I feel like I'm basically dead because an Orb of Discord on top of Tracer basically means she could take one shot from anyone before she dies, and it's very hard to deal with. For instance, if they had a Pharah on their team, I could switch out to a Widowmaker and start headshotting the Pharah as she's slowly hovering through the air. So there is a ton of counterplay, but how do I make content about a character when I fully explain everything and want to play it more? I don't know. I feel like it's more of a streaming opportunity at that point, but you guys can let me know in the comments. The game has a ton of map variety, but the maps themselves usually have similar objectives. So it's King of the Hill, payload, that kind of thing. It's all objective based. There's no team deathmatch added right now, but one of the things I think they're doing very well is basically adding in the Tavern Brawl from Hearthstone. So every single week there's going to be a new game mode with set rules that you can join in for fun and just have a completely different experience from week to week. So I think that is going to add a ton of replayability for just your normal everyday casual player. Competitive mode was added, although I didn't get a chance to play any of that at all. So they are trying to do their best to add variety to the game. But one of the issues I've run into a lot, and I've actually said this before on streams, I don't really think Overwatch is a game that I enjoy a lot in a solo queue setting. So for instance, it's really, really fun when I queue with 3 people and we go in and we're able to coordinate. Okay, I'm gonna play Reinhardt. Let's get a Mercy on me and let's start pushing up with this shield. You know, you stay behind me. Meanwhile, we have a sniper covering us, or, you know, something to that effect, where we can actually do these coordinated tactical maneuvers. There is voice chat in the game, so even when you are queuing by yourself, you are able to talk to randos and be like, hey, let's go have fun, let's push this, let's do this. But they're their own person, they're doing their own things, they may have their own goals in mind that may not coincide with your own. So basically, I think a great experience, or a great example of this is at DreamHack Austin. I was able to go up on, you know, the MSI booth and play Overwatch. They had like 5 desktops, 5 laptops, and we were just picked out of the crowd at random, and we went against a different team. I was the only one who did not pick an offensive hero, or a Hanzo, or Widowmaker. So I picked Lucio, trying to help carry, and I was like, guys, we need to get on this point, because it was King of the Hill. But they were just kind of doing their own thing. Guys, can we get some tanks in here? We need some bodies on this point. They were just going after kills. In the starting months of the game, or if you're in a particularly low skill MMR or something like that, I think that's going to be a very prominent issue, where everyone has their own agenda, but mostly the agenda is just to pick an offensive hero and go to town on the enemy team. And that is something I find very, very frustrating. Heroes of the Storm has some issues with this in Quick Match, but there's also a draft mode. I can say, I want to play this character in Hero League, and then I can play that character, and I'm stuck with that character the whole time, and I think that's important for some kind of, for some instances of matchmaking. Also, if there's a support on the enemy team in Heroes, well, then our team's going to have a support, and that's great. We have a person who wanted to play a healer, he's there to play a healer, and we know he's going to heal us. In a game like Overwatch, you can switch out at any point, so if you get frustrated and you're sick of healing, you could swap out to an offensive character, and then all of a sudden your team has no healer, and most people don't necessarily communicate that change. But again, this is like solo queue frustrations. In a team setting, it's so insanely fun, so insanely fast-paced. I think the medal system at the end of the match is a great incentive to improve and to drive yourself to get better. That individual motivation to always want to continue to be better at this game, I think, is very important. I think that the the play of the match system is interesting and could incentivize people to do some really ridiculous stuff, but it also needs a little bit of work. Like, we don't all want to watch Bastion just sit in a corner and not really do much of anything while he gets a triple kill. You know, that's not exciting. But when you are in a match and you see, oh, I just got play of the game, that's like, everybody shut up, get your popcorn, and watch what I did. You know, that's a great feeling as well. I do think the game has a very big future ahead of it. Blizzard is dedicating a lot of resources, you guys can tell, to just making sure this launch is successful. One of the things I think they did very, very well was limiting the amount of people that could actually play in the beta. And that may sound weird to people on the outside, but I think one of the things that hurt Heroes the most was the fact that we had a year of alpha and beta access. At one point, you could go on G2A. This is not a plug, but it's, you know, we're real talking here. You could go on that website and buy a beta key for like 30 cents to play Heroes of the Storm. It was ridiculous. There was an oversaturation. Everyone who wanted to play Heroes, wanted to check it out, wanted to see it, had already done that by the time the game was released, or at least a large portion of them. And they had impressions of the game that were incomplete. The game was not finished yet. A lot of people jumped in, played it, didn't like matchmaking, and then left. This caused, you know, the actual launch of the game, where hype should be the highest, to just kind of be a lukewarm reception. Whereas Overwatch was very selective with who they invited. They had 2 open beta events. They tantalized your tongue. And they only let you into these beta events, or a large portion of the population, they only let you in once they knew they had something really, really good and polished to show you. Which, as you see right now, the game's coming out and people are insanely hyped for it. The open beta events were a massive success. People basically vanished off the face of the earth for a few days to play this game while they could. And I do think the game has a lot of potential, and I would love to see the direction it takes within the next year. I think it would be really cool to add something in where, you know, you can kind of pick the role you want to play. Hey, I enjoy playing offensive characters. Well, great. You can have a slot dedicated to offensive characters. And, you know, maybe you prefer support characters. There you go. That's your slot dedicated to support. I do understand that at some point, you know, the game is so flexible right now because there is no defined meta. You can have 6 Winstons that jump in on a point and have a really meaningful impact. And who's to say that's not as good as, you know, a balanced team with a couple tanks, a couple offensives, and support players thrown in as well. I mean, it's hard to slap a defined meta on this, but I just think adding a little bit of organization into the matchmaking system could actually go a long way. But again, that is just my opinion. I would love to know what you guys think of the game. Are you interested in checking it out? Do you think it's going to be worth your time once it is finally released in a few short days? You can go in and pick it up. I highly recommend it. I know I've had some criticisms here, but I feel like they were all constructive. I think it's a fantastic game. I've enjoyed all of my time playing it, and I think that shows because I keep going back to play it, even though I don't think it's quite perfect yet. That's all for me today, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I will be doing some more Overwatch content once the game is released. Although for how long we do that, you know, we'll just kind of have to wait and see.